Picture a job site in 1972, a crew of a dozen men, shovels in hand, sweating over a trench that'll take them all week. Now picture one machine rolling up that digs it before lunch, then loads the spoil, backfills the hole, and drives to the next street under its own power. The 1970s were when that machine stopped being a novelty and took over the world. These are 10 backhoes from that decade that rewrote the rules of digging forever. Number 10. International Harvester 3820. International Harvester was a giant of American farm equipment, and in the early 70s, it decided to throw its full weight into construction. The result was the 3820, and weight is the right word, because this thing tipped the scales at around 15,000 pounds. Built from 1971 to 1975, the 3820 was one of the heaviest, most muscular backhoe loaders of its class in the entire decade. While most of its rivals ran 4-cylinder engines, the 3820 came powered by a big 310 cubic inch 6-cylinder diesel, putting out somewhere in the range of 84 to 100 horsepower depending on how you rated it. Even better, it was a genuine 4-wheel drive machine at a time when most backhoes were still 2-wheel drive and got stuck in their own trenches. That extra traction and torque made the 3820 a favorite for heavy municipal work, utility crews, and anyone digging in mud, sand, or on steep ground. What makes the 3820 matter isn't sales numbers. International Harvester never dominated backhoes the way Case or Deere did. What matters is what it proved. It showed that a backhoe loader didn't have to be a lightweight compromise machine. It could be a serious, high-horsepower, all-wheel drive earth mover. The industry took notes. Within a decade, 4-wheel drive and bigger diesels would become expected features rather than exotic ones. The 3820 was ahead of its time, and that's exactly why it earns the 10th spot. Number 9. Case 680. Construction King. If the Case 580 was the machine everybody knew, the 680 Construction King was its bigger, meaner older brother. Case launched the 680 line back in the mid-1960s to sit above the 580 as a larger frame industrial machine, and by the 1970s the model had evolved into the 680C, built from 1971 to 1974. The 680C got a serious upgrade under the hood. Case fitted it with the larger 301 cubic inch diesel, giving it the grunt to handle bigger buckets, deeper trenches, and heavier loads than the compact 580 could manage. This was the machine you rented when the job was too big for a standard backhoe, but too small to justify hauling in a full-size excavator and a separate wheel loader. The Construction King name wasn't just marketing. Through the late 1960s and into the 70s, Case backhoes genuinely ruled American construction, and the 680 was the flagship that carried the crown. It gave contractors a reason to stay loyal to the Case brand as their jobs grew. You could start out with a 580, and when your company got bigger, Case had a 680 waiting for you. Same controls, same dealer, same familiar yellow. That kind of product ladder is how brands lock in customers for life, and the 680C is a big reason Case dominated the era. A true king of the decade. Number 8. Massey Ferguson 50C. Massey Ferguson built its name on farm tractors, but by the mid-70s the company knew where the money was heading, and it wasn't just in the fields. Enter the Massey Ferguson 50C, produced from 1975 to 1980, the machine that turned Massey into a real contender in the tractor-loader backhoe world. The heart of the 50C was a legend in its own right. The Perkins A4236 diesel, a 3.9-liter 4-cylinder that produced 67 horsepower. That Perkins engine had a reputation for being nearly indestructible, and it powered a huge range of equipment across the industry. In the 50C, it gave Massey a machine that could work all day and start again the next morning without complaint. But the real story of the 50C is choice. Massey offered it with 3 completely different transmission setups, a straightforward 8-speed mechanical gearbox, a manual shuttle for quick forward and reverse loader work, and a full power shuttle with a torque converter for the smoothest operation of all. That flexibility meant a buyer could spec exactly the machine they needed and pay only for the complexity they wanted. A budget-minded farmer and a demanding commercial contractor could both find their perfect version of the same backhoe. The 50C proved that the backhoe loader market was big enough and mature enough to support real competition and real variety. It wasn't just Case and Deere anymore. By offering a bulletproof engine and genuine options, Massey Ferguson helped push the whole industry to give buyers more, and that's why the 50C lands at number 8. Number 7. John Deere 410. We'll get to John Deere's most famous backhoe in a minute, but first, it's heavyweight. Introduced in the late 1970s and carried into the early 80s, the John Deere 410 was one of Deere's first purpose-built heavy-duty industrial backhoe loaders, engineered for jobs the smaller machines simply couldn't handle. Where the standard backhoe of the day was aimed at plumbers, small builders and city crews, the 410 was built for the contractor doing real excavation, bigger foundations, deeper utility runs, heavier material handling. It brought more breakout force, a beefier frame, and more digging muscle to the table, all wrapped in that unmistakable John Deere green and yellow. The 410 mattered because it extended Deere's reach. John Deere had entered the backhoe market at the start of the decade and quickly earned a reputation for reliability. But reputation only takes you so far if you can't offer a customer the bigger machine when their business grows. The 410 filled that gap. It let Deere compete head-to-head with Case's larger Construction King machines and keep customers inside the Green family instead of losing them to a rival when the jobs got bigger. That strategy worked so well that the 410 designation is still around today, generations later, on some of the most capable backhoes Deere builds. Not bad for a machine that started life in the disco era. The 410 built the heavy end of a dynasty. Number 6. Ford 555. Ford was already one of the biggest tractor makers on the planet, so when it committed to the tractor-loader backhoe, it did so with the full force of its manufacturing and dealer network behind it. The Ford 550 and 555 family arrived in the mid-1970s, and the 555 in particular went on to become one of the most common backhoes you'd find on a North American job site for the next decade. The 555 was powered by a 201 cubic inch 3-cylinder Ford diesel, a modest but honest engine of around 57 to 62 horsepower, and buyers could choose between a straightforward geared transmission or a smoother torque converter setup. Fully rigged with loader and backhoe, it weighed in around 13,700 pounds. It wasn't the most powerful machine of the decade, and owners were famously candid about its quirks, but it was everywhere, and that's the whole point. The Ford 555's real contribution was accessibility. Ford's vast dealer network meant that even a small-town contractor or a one-man excavating outfit could walk into a dealership, buy a backhoe, and get it serviced locally with parts on the shelf. That combination of a recognizable name, a reasonable price, and coast-to-coast support put backhoes in the hands of thousands of small operators who never could have justified one before. Democratizing the machine, putting a real backhoe within reach of the little guy, may be the single most important thing that happened to the industry in the 1970s. The Ford 555 was right at the center of it. Number 5. JCB 3D. Back in England, JCB spent the 1970s perfecting the machine it had invented, and while the flagship 3C got most of the glory, its sibling the 3D quietly did enormous work spreading the backhoe across Britain, Europe, and beyond. The 3D was, in a sense, the everyman's JCB, a versatile, hard-working digger that showed up on countless small sites. But the 3D and the 3C shared in one of the most important backhoe innovations of the entire decade. In 1975, JCB introduced an extending telescopic dipper, a digging arm that could slide out hydraulically to reach farther and dig deeper without moving the whole machine. Suddenly, an operator could sit in one spot and clean out a long trench or reach across an obstacle, dramatically cutting the time spent repositioning. It was one of those ideas that seems obvious in hindsight and changed how the job was actually done. JCB machines of this era also carried the brand's signature trick, first pioneered back on the original JCB-3. The ability to slide the entire backhoe sideways across the back of the machine. That side shift let an operator dig right up against a wall or a curb, priceless in the tight streets of European towns where the backhoe earned its keep. The 3D matters because it took JCB's clever engineering and made it ordinary. Put it on machine after machine, site after site, until the backhoe loader was simply part of the landscape across an entire continent. The telescopic dipper alone was a genuine leap. Number 4. John Deere JD 310, now the famous one. In 1971, John Deere built its very first backhoe loader, the JD 310, and in doing so launched what would become one of the longest-running and most successful equipment lines in construction history. The original JD 310 was a straightforward, honest machine of around 50 horsepower, and Deere engineered it for exactly the things contractors complained about most: simple mechanics, strong and predictable hydraulics, and easy access for service. When something needs fixing on a job site, every hour it's down costs money, and Deere understood that a backhoe that was easy to work on was a backhoe that made its owner money. That philosophy made the 310 an instant favorite with contractors and city public works departments alike. But here's what truly makes the JD 310 legendary: it never stopped. That 1971 machine kicked off a model line that Deere has refined continuously for more than half a century, through the 310A, B, C, D, E, and onward, all the way to the machines rolling out of the factory today. When John Deere celebrated 50 years of backhoe loaders, it traced the entire dynasty straight back to that first 310 in 1971. Very few products in any industry can claim a 50-year unbroken run. The JD 310 is one of them, and it started in the decade we're talking about. It proved that a newcomer could enter a market dominated by established players and, with the right machine and the right priorities, build something that would outlast nearly everything around it. A true founding father. Number 3. Case 580C and the Extendo hoe. By the middle of the decade, Case was ready to take its best-selling backhoe and make it better. The Case 580C, produced from 1975 to 1980, brought a wave of real engineering upgrades to America's favorite backhoe, and one option that changed what operators expected from the machine entirely. First, the improvements. Case dropped in a bigger engine, the 207 cubic inch G207D diesel, producing around 55 horsepower, giving the 580C noticeably more grunt than the model it replaced. Just as importantly, Case ditched the old external contracting band brakes in favor of modern bonded disc-in-drum brakes, a genuine safety and reliability upgrade on a heavy machine that spent its life stopping and starting on rough ground. But the headline feature was the Extendo hoe. This was Case's telescopic dipper stick, a digging arm that could hydraulically extend to reach farther and dig deeper on demand. With the standard backhoe, a 580 could reach roughly 14 feet. With the Extendo hoe extended, that jumped to around 18 feet. For an operator, that meant fewer repositions, cleaner trenches, and the ability to reach across obstacles or dig deep footings without ever climbing off the seat. The Extendo hoe turned the 580C from a simple digger into a genuinely versatile reaching and digging tool, and it became one of the most sought-after options on the machine. Between the bigger engine, the better brakes, and that game-changing telescopic arm, the 580C cemented the idea that a backhoe should keep evolving, that each generation should meaningfully outdig the last. That relentless improvement is a huge part of why the 580 name became untouchable. Number 2. JCB 3C Mark III. If you close your eyes and picture a 1970s backhoe at work in Britain, you're almost certainly picturing this one. The JCB 3C Mark III, launched in 1977, is remembered as perhaps the most famous machine of its entire generation, the digger that defined the decade for JCB and became a genuine icon. The Mark III was the culmination of years of steady refinement. JCB gave it a taller, roomier cab, a full 6 inches higher than before, which sounds trivial until you've spent 10 hours a day inside one. Operators finally got real space, better visibility, and a more comfortable place to work. Under the hood came a more powerful powertrain, and the machine picked up distinctive touches like a full-height chrome exhaust stack that made it instantly recognizable rolling down a road. JCB even moved the fuel filler to the top of the tank in front of the cab, so operators no longer had to jack up the side of the machine just to refuel without getting a face full of diesel. Small changes, but exactly the kind that came from actually listening to the people who used the machine. There's a deeper story here too. In the mid-1970s, JCB quietly kicked off an internal effort, later known as Project 200, to design the successor to the whole 3C range. By 1979, the company was even building a special powertrain version of the machine, specifically to test the engine and transmission for what was coming next. That next machine, launched at the start of the following decade, would go on to become the best-selling backhoe loader in the world. So the 3C Mark III was both a legend in its own right and the launch pad for an even bigger legend. It represented the moment JCB perfected the formula it had invented and set the stage to conquer the planet with it. Number 1. The Case 580B. And at number 1, the machine that arguably did more than any other to make the backhoe a household object in America. The Case 580B, built from 1971 to 1976. On paper, it's almost modest. A 188 cubic inch G188D diesel of around 52 horsepower, available with a mechanical or a power shuttle transmission, wrapped in that famous industrial yellow. But numbers don't capture what the 580B did. This is the machine that cemented Case as the dominant backhoe brand in North America, the one that established the entire 580 line as the definitive volume backhoe of its era. It sold in enormous numbers, and it sold to everyone: contractors, municipalities, utilities, farmers, and rental yards from coast to coast. The 580B was engineered to be the machine you could count on. Its architecture, the engine, the shuttle drivetrain, the whole layout was durable, familiar, and shared parts across a huge family of Case machines, which meant repairs were cheap and dealers always had what you needed. Case even offered the Extendo telescopic dipper on it, giving buyers that extra reach when they wanted it. It was, in short, the right machine at exactly the right moment. Here's the ultimate measure of its impact. In much of America, the number 580 stopped being a model designation and simply became the word people used for a backhoe, the way Kleenex means tissue. That's not something you engineer, that's something you earn, one job site at a time, by being the machine everyone reaches for. The 580B didn't just change the industry. For millions of people, it became the industry. That's why the humble, yellow, endlessly capable Case 580B is number 1. If you enjoyed this trip back through the golden age of the backhoe, hit that like button and subscribe, because there's a lot more classic iron where this came from. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.